Hello and welcome back to another edition of Substream News with me, Joseph, your presenter. Now, before we dive into this week's topics, I'd like to ask you to just go down, like and subscribe, and I'll give you 5 seconds to do that, so start the clock. Okay, let's go. You wouldn't steal a handbag. You wouldn't steal a television. You wouldn't steal a movie. Downloading pirated films is stealing. Stealing is against the law. Piracy. It's a crime. Anybody else remember that advert? Now, it was years ago, but back then, yeah, we used Kazaa, LimeWire, uTorrent, BitTorrent, not myself, obviously, but a lot of people use those platforms to download music illegally. These days, there's other methods, but data from Wired says that there were 17 billion visits last year to piracy websites for music, and that's 13% increase on the year before. So piracy is back in style, and you'd think it wouldn't be because of the popularity of Spotify and Apple, but they are pricing people out. Price increases to popular music streaming platforms and the rise of advertising and just too many intrusive, annoying and interrupting adverts listening to music are forcing people back to piracy. Now, whether that's justification or not is not for me to say, but since you can basically find every single song and album on YouTube, going to YouTube ripping websites is commonplace now. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's what's happening here, because 40% of all music piracy that now occurs is from these websites like YouTube to MP3, although that one doesn't exist anymore. It's similar websites. Now, there's something weird about this. The bizarre part in this story is the role that Google plays. Since Google owns YouTube, you would think Google would do all it could to protect its creators. And it doesn't. Because when you search YouTube to MP3 or something along those lines, Google will give you all the results and all the tools and websites you need to steal music from them. Why do they allow this? I don't know. There's something bizarre here. But if I was a creator, as I am, but if I was actually in music, I would be concerned. Now, on a side note, Spotify have just signed a deal with Joe Rogan for $250 million to keep his show going exclusively on Spotify. That means somebody's got to pay for that, which means more adverts, it means more interruptions, and here's the official statement. In a deviation from his first deal with the company, under the new deal, Spotify will sell ads for and distribute Rogan's show in a video format on YouTube. So basically, you will not only see and hear more adverts, but you will see and hear more Joe Rogan just to pay his huge invoice. Moving on. Whew. Sticking on the theme of hacking, I suppose, this time it's biohacking. So imagine the Olympics, except everybody's on performance enhancing drugs and medical tech is allowed, like wearables and stuff. Imagine steroids are allowed, testosterone boosters are allowed, and pretty much anything goes as long as it's done with professional medical supervision. That is the enhanced games, and it's the brainchild of Peter Thiel, who is the CEO of PayPal, and his one-time lawyer, Aaron D'Souza. And the premise of this has been explained by D'Souza. He says, "We want to end the oppression of science in sports and let human potential reach its maximum. Science has been used all throughout our society to advance our skill, productivity, and capabilities, but it has been excluded from sports by the International Olympic Committee. So let's see what humanity is truly capable of." Now, D'Souza goes on to say that 44% of elite track and field athletes have admitted to taking performance-enhancing drugs, while only about 1% have ever been caught. Now, there's no way to really back this up, but there might be merit in it. So you might be wondering what sports will take place at the enhanced games. Well, we've got swimming, gymnastics, weightlifting, track and field, boxing, and MMA. And interestingly, and I really like this because remember, Substream News is not political. we're not interested in politics. And the enhanced games will not be political, which means competitors will compete for themselves and not under flags of their nations. That means even competitors from sanctioned countries can take part. And why not? The big question here is this a dangerous human experiment, or is it unlocking the true potential of human physicality and ability? Tell us in the comments what you think. We really want to hear. Okay, moving on. Back in 2016, an episode of The Simpsons aired, and at the time it was a very funny episode where people started wearing VR headsets. They were falling into manholes, they were walking into lampposts, and they were even having some kind of VR intimacy. So for all of the things that The Simpsons does get right, and those who know, they get a lot right. The creators of The Simpsons have a real talent for predicting the future, but they probably didn't predict driverless electric cars being driven by people using virtual reality headsets to work and entertain themselves simultaneously. That might be a bit of a stretch for the 2016 imagination. But it's reality. So a 25-year-old man, he shared this video on Twitter. He's called Dante, and he was using his $3,500 Apple Vision Pro while driving his Tesla, although he wasn't driving. He put it into hands-free mode. And he ended the video with police sirens looking like it pulled him over, but it was just a skit. But we must state, it is not only against the terms and conditions of Apple Vision Pro to use it while driving, it's highly illegal. Do not do it. Even if it looks fun, don't do it. You're not just putting yourself at risk, but other people too. Now, this isn't the only viral video we've seen recently when it comes to the Vision Pro. There's one of a guy walking across the street and playing games, presumably at the same time. There's another one of a guy maybe responding to emails on the subway, and there's also one of a guy flying a small aeroplane, and that is just chaotic humanity. I don't know what possessed him to do it. Virality, I suppose. Oh, and there's also a great video of a guy walking around London. He's wearing an Apple Vision Pro headset and walking his robotic dog. That's one you've got to go see. It's brilliant. So what are your thoughts about these spatial computing headsets? Do you think they're an expensive fad? Do you think that the early versions that we're getting now are overpriced and a bit bulky perhaps, and that give it a few years they're going to be slim, streamlined, and perhaps more cost effective? Or do you think this is just a fad? Do you think it's just ridiculous? Can you never see yourself using one? Again, head down to the comments and let us know. We'd love to hear your opinions. Oh, and before we move on, it's made the news this week that, let's say, VR adult entertainment is not compatible with the headsets. And this has caused some people who forked out a lot of money on these to be a little bit dismayed. Well, fear not, jailbreakers, which is the term used for people who hack hardware like Apple or Android devices, are figuring out workarounds. And while they're not perfect, they are sharing their DIY walkthroughs on Reddit, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you're desperate enough to see that, you know where to go. Enjoy. And on a lighter note, this brings me to the final story, and I think we should give a big round of applause to cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko, who just set a world record for spending the most time in space. And it's a very impressive 878 days to pip the previous record holder. That's about 2.5 years. Now, the thing that I really love about this story, beyond the impressive achievement, is his very stoic response. He says, "I fly into space to do my favorite thing, not to set records. I am proud of all my achievements, but I am most proud that the record for the total duration of human stay in space is still held by a Russian cosmonaut. Now that's great. Now, what I found surprising in the rest of the interview is that he says he doesn't feel deprived or isolated, but that he does miss his kids. But thankfully, he makes regular video calls with them because of the advances in technology. And he also exercises every day, which is, as we've covered in Substream News, obviously is great for your health, but it's actually great to counter the effects of weightlessness, which plagues many cosmonauts and astronauts. So kudos to Oleg, and I know for sure that I would lose my mind 2.5 years in space, even though the view is fantastic. So a round of applause to him for what is just an out of this world achievement. Thank you for watching. This is Substream News, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We need your support to grow this channel. I'm Joseph, your presenter, and I'll see you next week.